Alright everyone, I absolutely will be doing a midterm recap as well as talking later with H.A. Goodman. We'll be sort of comparing our predictions, our lineup and so forth. His live stream I think almost hit a 10k actually, a peak, which was quite a few as well. Ultimately the biggest winner of the night I think was the alt media. I think it was a great night for me. I can't wait to do my recap here. It'll be fairly long, but my throat is still a little bit dry. Actually from last night, talking for 4.5 hours almost non-stop. We'll do that too. So I'm only going to do 3 videos this morning at hazard of losing my voice. Now we've got to talk about something though that nobody really cared about because it was coinciding with midterm eve, which is Emmanuel Macron going completely ballistic, going completely insane. He's the head Europhile of France. He's their dear leader, I suppose. Calling for the formation of a European army, actually, a European military to sort of maintain European sovereignty against sort of the increasingly bipolar field between Russia and China on one end and the US and its allies on the other. I'm thinking to myself, it's kind of an odd thing. Since the Europhiles for years now, I remember when Nigel Farage said that the ultimate goal was basically they were going to federate Europe and form one military, and it would basically be an empire. Essentially, a Fourth Reich forms without firing a shot. That's basically, it appears, their goal. And they couch it in family-friendly PC language, the same as like Patriot Act or Affordable Care Act or anti-fascist action. All of these wonderful sounding terms that are never actually accurate whatsoever. That's basically what the European Union is. It's basically, we want togetherness and peace and brotherhood and love and to defend ourselves. Really what these people want is an oligarchy. They want to destroy the Republican framework of Western Europe especially. But that's funny, because I can remember when Farage and a few other people brought this up, and this was years ago, this was before Brexit, they swore up and down, no, we're not calling for a European military. Maybe cross-training, cooperation across our sovereign militaries. We have our, maybe a EU, like a policing or military force, security-wise. But we're not going to form one military. Now the French are openly calling for it. Now, if Germany calls for it, it's going to be unavoidable, because between their two spheres, of course, they control Brussels. And of course, to Macron, you think that you, Jupiter, are going to be leading this army, or do you think it'll be the German Chancellor, whoever it happens to be next? I think my money's on Germany, maybe. It's all part of the same Nazi conspiracy. I'm kind of joking right now. Only this time they realize that instead of screwing France over, they'll just have a partnership in which France is the junior partner. Maybe they want those French nuclear weapons. It's what it's all about. They'll probably hasten to try to form this. Now that the UK is gone and France is the only nuclear state left there, the Germans are clamoring for nuclear weapons too. It's been openly proposed, but I think they're treaty-bound not to develop them, if I remember correctly. Doesn't really matter. But Macron, he's an interesting individual. Because on the one hand, he seems vaguely nationalistic, but on the other hand, he's a diehard, complete globalist, total Europhile. The only time he ever stressed any Euroscepticism was in the same framework as some of the Eastern European countries, which is essentially, be nice, stop bullying member states on the migrant issue or whatever, but for the purpose of holding the EU together. And this is what Poland has done. Eastern Europe is actually less Eurosceptic than Western Europe at this point. Euroscepticism is most common in parts of Western Europe, despite the fact that those governments are run by the far left in many cases. That's specifically because in Eastern Europe of the economic situation, and they love sort of the European experiment for that, and they don't want it to collapse. So they're like, hey, stop bullying people. Let's be nice. Especially be nice to us. Give us some money. Development funds and stuff, which never happens, and then Italy gets bullied by Germany and stuff. It's all very funny. But the EU army is something that they claimed that they didn't want. They're like, no, you're a conspiracy theorist if you think that we would do that. No, this isn't tyranny. It's not imperialism. It's not, it's not a corporate oligarchy that's, completely globalized and run by a bunch of slime balls. No, we're believers in democracy. We have free movement and family friendly. We're happy-go-lucky and we're generous to our neighbors. In reality, you can't be generous to newfound migrant neighbors who are only there because you've bombed their countries, Macron. France has been instrumental in that almost more than the United States. France hauled off and started bombing things in the region after one of the, I can't remember which terrorist attack it was a couple of years ago. France is like, fuck it, and starts pit bombing everything in sight. And then, of course, that creates refugees. when you're attacking civilian areas, when you're largely going after maybe the only legitimate fighters within the region, which are Assad's forces, and then ignoring the Kurds meanwhile because of the issue of Turkey for diplomatic reasons, which was always funny. It's no small wonder Erdogan wants to straddle the fence between Russia and the United States at this point. I would have said the U.S. and Europe, but I guess Macron is signaling, no, Europe wants to be a big boy now, which isn't actually going to happen. Europe has considerably more population than the U.S., considerably more manpower, and yet has about the same economic output as the United States. It's more densely populated, it's got more demographic problems, it's decreasingly stable. Meanwhile, the U.S. is picking up speed in every measure possible, has infinite room for growth compared to Europe. You're not going to win this struggle. The European ideals of imperialism, of world conquest, are attempting to be realized without actually going to war. The EU is an imperialistic experiment. Globalism is just rebranded imperialism with a family-friendly label. Oh, don't worry. Yeah, like when The Atlantic came out, I think, or The Economist, one of those two, said that the world would be $5 trillion richer if it had open borders or some number like that. And I pointed out, yes, but the vast majority of that goes into the hands of the people at the top. It's not going to ingratiate, it's not going to pay for the college education of some night janitor's kid. It's not going to pay for your health care. It's not going to pay for anything good. It's going to pay to kill people and to build infrastructure used predominantly by militaries. And it's going to go right into the pockets, the greedy pockets of a handful of corporatists, not capitalists, and basically bureaucratic oligarchs and people like that. And then all of the people that they pay off in cartels and organized religion in order to maintain the bread and circus, basically. That's essentially what's happening in Europe today. I would say to the European people, you need to become more Eurosceptic. I don't know why so many Western Europeans especially don't see what's happening there. And people in Eastern Europe that are getting a little nervous about the USSR is, yes, you have a right to be nervous because that's exactly what's happening. They are going to try to form you into one loosely molded state. They're already doing that with the Schengen area anyway, with the euro. You are essentially one country. And now they're going to naturally call for one military that will not be beholden to the individual member states at all. Right now, your militaries are beholden to and paid for by your population. Therefore, there's loyalty to some interior nationalistic ethos, some civic principles within your country that your people tend to happen generally to agree with. That's going to change. You're going to have one considerably large military that all of you will have to pay for, but that won't actually be doing your bidding in so doing. And they'll frame it as we're protecting you against the evil big bad Russians or bully Trump. That's not why it's going to be there. It's going to be there to keep you in and shoot at you if you get out of hand and make sure the EU lasts forever. And it won't be the European Union. It'll just be Europe after a while. It'll be one country. It's a solid prediction, if you don't stop it very quickly. That's about all. Peace out.